Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Ultimate Potential, a Telos podcast, a mental health podcast. I'm Tony,
And I'm Craig.
and we are here to try to do some good in the world.
We hope so. And we have a super special guest with us today.
Yes, in fact, this is historic because we've had some parents of former students who have been here with us, and parents of current students who have joined us on the podcast, but we've never had an alumni student come back. And so I think this is our 8th episode. And we have here with us Matt. And Matt was here, I don't know, 4 years ago. Is that right, Matt?
Yes, sir. 2018 through 2019.
Okay, he was here with us, and he has gone on to do great things in his life. I was looking. I saw a quote yesterday, and it said that art is something that can kind of blow the dust off of our lives, right? That's what we use art for, is to just remind us of why we live. And Matt has gone on to become a very successful artist, and we'll tell you more about that, and even let you experience some of his work. So, Matt, your artist name is Matty X. Will you just kind of start out and tell us a little bit about, maybe start out and tell us about what you're doing now, and then when you're ready, if you could just kind of back up and tell us a little bit about your story.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, definitely. So, what I'm doing right now is I work full time, and when I'm not working, I'm working on music. You know, it's every day. I'm trying to become a better version of myself, whether that's a better writer, a more creative writer, a better person at my job, a better person in my relationships. Like day to day has always been, because one of the main things I always learned from my process in treatment was mindfulness and kind of taking one thing at a time, one day at a time, 1 minute at a time. And that's really what I try to focus on, and just working full time. Right now, I actually work I'm a full time swim instructor, so I teach kids how to swim. So it's pretty cool.
That is cool.
All right. So tell us a little bit about, tell us about what you're doing with your music career right now.
Yeah, definitely. I actually recently did my first kind of open mic type of performance last month. And after I did it, I had managers and producers come up to me and ask me to work and ask me to collaborate with them. And it was an amazing feeling, especially because I actually walked into the performance basically the only white kid in the room, and I knew that I had to come prepared with the most lethal raps I could think of, and that was the game plan, and that's what I did. So I went in there, and I tried to do my best, and I ended up getting a lot of attention for it, and I was pretty happy with that. I was happy that, because I know my stuff is good, I have that confidence in myself, but to have other people give me that same feedback, it makes me feel like my hard work is paying off.
Okay, you'll remember us when you're rich and famous, right? Remember the little people, and
Of
we
course,
still
of
need to get
course.
you out here for we need our students to hear what you can do. So,
Yeah.
one thing about Matt is, as an artist, he was really involved in the Telos art program, and his teacher is here, Rachel. I'm going to have her come on over
Come on over, Rachel.
and just say hi. It's been a little while.
Hello, friend.
Hey, Rachel.
Hello again. It's so good to speak to you.
So, Matt.
Yeah, nah. Hey, yeah, Rachel. How's your physical condition? How are you?
Um, yeah, 70%. Yeah, but that's okay. We take life in its curveballs, right? It was
One day at a
definitely a
time. That's right,
curveball,
Rachel.
but yeah, we take it. We're gonna work with
We
it.
always
Try to
bounce
stay
back. We
positive.
always bounce back.
Yes, yes. We're trying, so it's good. Yeah.
Matt, did Rachel
I'm
have
proud of you, Rachel.
did
Thank
Rachel
you.
have a good impact on you while you were in treatment here?
Gonna make me cry.
Yeah, I have, man. I could be on here for a whole day talking about Rachel's impact on me. I mean, me and my best friend Evan, who also was a student at Telos and is my producer and my my best friend to this day. I was downstairs in the art room, and I saw Evan making some music on the computer, and I was like, and I walked up to him, and me and Evan weren't really friends at that point. I had just gotten to Telos, and he had already been there for a while, and he was like, "Oh, I'm just making beats. Like, you should try to rap on them." And I ended up writing a song that didn't come out as bad as I expected it to. I had never written music before, and Rachel was nice enough to let us record and let us try to do our thing as best we could in the art room. And she would go out of her way. She would take time after her shift. She never had to stay back, but she would stay back and make music with us. She would pull us out of different sessions to make music. Like Rachel always. Without Rachel, I promise you, me and Evan would not be making music. We would not be friends. None of that would be possible if it hadn't been for Rachel's generosity in allowing us to make music.
I love
That's
that
very sweet of you.
story, and thank you for sharing it with us.
That's very sweet of you. But I do want to give you credit for your creativity and your ability to express things with music that could be said so much easier with music and more powerfully with music that if you had just said would have not been so powerful. So it's your creativity and it's your diligence and your ability to keep working with it and taking the things that you've learned at Telos and applying them day after day, because that's where your grit and resilience and determination kicked in. And I'm proud of you for taking what you've learned, applying it every day, applying it to the hard days and the good days, and continuing to use your voice for positive things. So I remember right at the beginning, we were determined that your voice was going to help others. And I know that it has, as you've continued to make music and to speak to those that have struggled with mental health challenges. So, and taking your music and connecting with them in only the way that music can. So well done for being an artist, but also a great artist. So well done.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, that it means no more than coming from you, Rachel. I mean, I
Well,
can't
thanks.
express enough. I love you with everything, and thank you so much for everything.
Love you too, and I'm proud of you. So well done. Keep going. Keep putting up the fight.
Always, Rachel, always.
All right, you take care. I'm going to hand it back over to Tony now. Okay, speak to you soon.
Cool. Cool.
So, Matt, thank you so much. So tell us a little bit about your story. Like, how did you end up at Telos? And we'll start there.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, honestly, when I think back to my time before I went to Telos and I think about the person I was, I honestly, I don't remember that kid, and I don't want to remember that kid. You know, I was a real, I struggle, I still struggle to this day with anxiety. It's become a very big factor in my life. My therapist, Dave, who was a therapist at Telos, kind of the first time I really learned what anxiety was he kind of compared it to my blonde hair. He was like, it's just hair. He was like, it's just part of you. And I struggle with anxiety, and all my life I struggled with anxiety. But unfortunately, when I was growing up, I was picked on and I was bullied and I was beat up all the time. And especially for either the color of my skin or just for the fact that I wasn't, I don't know, as attractive as other kids at that point. I was called ugly. I was called a lot of mean things. You know, I was bullied. I was beat up, and it happened to me all the way up until I came to Telos, pretty much, because Telos wasn't my first rodeo. I went to military school, I went to wilderness twice, I went to boarding school, and then I came to Telos. So you have to consider the fact that I've been through a lot more than the average 19-year-old. And when I come on a podcast like this, I'm trying to tell my story so that people understand that it's like everybody has a story. My story is unique to me, just like everybody else's story is unique to them. But I landed at Telos because I didn't know how to deal with anxiety, and I didn't know how to accept myself for who I was, because the entire world told me that I wasn't good enough, that I wasn't hot enough, I didn't have the right hair, I didn't have the right shoes, I wasn't listening to the right music. And I decided, when I came to Telos, I made a decision that I was going to look myself in the mirror and be okay with what I saw. And once I made that pivotal moment in my life, Everything changed.
Ah, it's so empowering. There's so much pressure put on not just all people, but especially young people in the world we live in. A lot of pressure. So you came to Telos. You had an experience here. Um, you were here with other students. Some people had really great experiences. Some people had not so great experiences. Some people, it was a mixed bag. Probably for everybody, it was a mixed bag. There was some discomfort in the process. Can you maybe talk a little bit about what you see as the difference between those who go to a setting, treatment setting, and do well, and it really benefits them, versus those who don't as much?
You know, I when I think about a question like that, the first thing that comes to my mind is just resilience. It's I think the actual difference is resilience. A lot of kids out there go through negative things and they think that's the only thing that's meant for them. But I've always tried to tell people anytime I see it, it's like there is always light at the end of the tunnel. There, it is never too late to change. It's never too late to change. I thought it was too late for me to change when I was 15 years old, and that just puts life in perspective, because you can think about a 45-year-old man who's going through a divorce, and he's saying it's never too late to change. It's never too late to change, and that's the end goal. The end goal is to learn that it's never too late to change. You can always do better.
Yeah, well said.
So, so that was the difference for you, and that's also the difference from what you saw, what you observed with your peers. I'm going to ask you a related question, and that has to do with. Well, let me just talk for a second. At Telos, as you know, we are big into research. We want to make sure that what we're doing works, and so we do all these outcome studies. So we know it works, and then we have also just so many people like yourself that kind of attribute a lot of this stuff to their experience in treatment. But we also know that there's a certain percentage of kids that it doesn't work for, and even the ones that it works for, when you're in treatment, you have ups and downs. There's good things and there's bad things. There's human errors that you're dealing with real life, even though you're inside a treatment center. So, we're talking now to let's imagine that some parent, right, a year from now, clicks onto this podcast and is somehow thinking or wishing that if they can just get their child into Telos, that it's going to be like peachy. It's going to be awesome, right? Or picture yourself like some child that their parents have already told them that they're coming to Telos, and now they're on this podcast listening to you, right? So can you be real with us about how that it's not all peaches and cream? Like give us your feelings about that, your artistic feelings even, right?
No, yeah, absolutely. And the first thing I would say, if I put myself in that parent's shoes, I would want that parent to know that they have to do just as much work as the kid. It is not a one-way street, and it is not A to B. It's not that simple. It's a journey. And the thing about Telos is that the thing about any treatment center is that it's a very controlled environment. So the whole journey through Telos is preparing you to go into society and be a thriving member of society. And unfortunately for me, I have had one of my closest, he was a close friend of mine, and he was actually supposed to be my first principal's coach, and then things ended up getting mixed up. But one of my close friends, Mikey, obviously, who we know, who is no longer with us, was a very impactful person on my life, and he was very artistic, and he loved music, and he loved art and tattoos and all this stuff. And I always got along with him in the kitchen. And when I think about somebody like that who really did the work, and still, unfortunately, the real world was too much for him to handle at that point in his life. Sometimes that happens with treatment. Sometimes kids can successfully leave treatment and then fail in the real world.
Yeah.
People like me, people like me I've had people by my side who have kept me at that state where it's like you got to remind yourself of all the work you came from. Because when I left Telos, I was 16, so I was still a sophomore in high school. I still had a long ways to go, so I couldn't just, it wasn't like Telos was over and then I was good,
Right.
that's not how it works. Telos is a journey to get you to get you to the next point in your life, and then you start and you take those lessons from Telos and you apply them to real life. Because and that's the difficult part that I see with a lot of kids, is taking the things that they heard, whether it's in treatment or wilderness or wherever, and applying it in real life. Because the all of these things that I learned at Telos are so applicable. The metaphors, the everything, the treatment plans, everything. It actually works if you just apply it in your own way. Because everybody's journey is different, and everybody has their own ways of coping. They have their own coping skills. They have their own ways of dealing with trauma and emotions and anxieties. But if you're able to really build a foundation for yourself the way I did, because it wasn't just me. My parents did the work too, and they weren't there at Telos with me, but they were here in New Jersey doing the work. I know they were, because I came home, and the reason I know they did the work is because I came home and they were different.
Yeah.
I wasn't the only one who changed. My parents changed too. They changed their entire parental dynamic for the betterment of my mental health. And that's the only thing I'm afraid of when it comes to kids getting sent from treatment is, are both parties ready to really, really dig deep and do the work? Because a lot of the times it's only one or the other. The parents are ready, but the kid's not ready, or the kid's ready, but the parents aren't ready. It's not all. It's like you said. It's a very mixed bag.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, that's really important. There there have been in my career, every once in a while I'll come across a parent who has almost like they think of their child like they're a car or a computer. Like, hey, this thing isn't working. This computer isn't working. It's broken. I need to fix it. I need someone to come and repair it and call me when you're done and I'll come pick it up. And that just does not work. It doesn't work because
Never.
all of these problems and these struggles, they're whole families go through them together. And you can have a student that comes to a program and has an amazing change experience, but if they go back to the exact same family dynamics, it's so hard. It's hard anyway to hold on to the change, right? But especially if your family is kind of unconsciously inviting you to go back to those old ways of being.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that was the big thing with me. Like I said, when I came home, my parents were ready for me to come home, because a lot of the kids at Telos, sometimes they get sent home too early when they're not ready, or they get sent home too late when they're already burnt out. And the thing is, I did a year at Telos. It was the perfect amount of time for me. I did the work, I buckled down, and I came home and my parents were ready to say, okay, here we go. Step one. Because I didn't go back to my parents' house and have a phone to myself and all this free, like that. That never works. You can't take a kid from a treatment center in a controlled environment like that and just throw them into the fire. That never works. My parents put things in place. I put things in place for myself. I kept working out. I kept playing basketball. I was varsity captain at my high school, and I was doing performances at my high school, and I was captain of varsity soccer too. I kept my engine running. I didn't give up after Telos. I didn't think Telos was the end all be all. It was Telos was the journey. I did the work. It some of it sucked and it was hard and it was really difficult, but it made me a stronger person, and I wouldn't be here sitting here talking to you guys if I hadn't done that work.
Yeah.
So that's the lesson.
That's
Yeah.
an awesome lesson.
Yeah. Your energy is contagious. So here's a question for you. Um, you you are part of a generation. You're 19, almost 20, right? You're part
Yep.
of a group of young people, young adults who uh, it's different now. Like Matt, when I was your age, it was the world was scary and complicated, but it seemed much simpler to succeed, right? And all the pressures that you were talking about at the beginning of the podcast, I we didn't feel those as acutely as you guys do. I've got I've got a son your age, and speaking of music, he's the lead guitarist in a band, right? And he's just in love with that whole creative process. But there are so many things in his life that are inviting him to self-destruct, essentially, right? And he's fighting against that every day. And so we have this kind of nation of so many young people right now who are in total despair, um, don't feel like they have anything to live for, don't see a path to success. I'm wondering if you have any words for them.
Yeah. First and foremost, I want to make it clear that I was one of those kids. I was one of those kids who was broken. I was one of those kids who felt like the entire world hated him. I was one of those kids who was checking Instagram every 5 minutes because I was so addicted and obsessed to caring about what other people said about me or my posts or my hair or this or that. I was obsessed because, and the reason I was obsessed with the way other people thought about me is because I completely suppressed the way I felt about myself. The way my therapist Dave compared it to is a beach ball. I was holding the beach ball underwater, and eventually that thing came up and it popped. And it popped and it exploded everywhere. It exploded on my parents, it exploded on my brother. And if I hadn't gone to a treatment center, if I hadn't gone to Wilderness, and I want to make it clear, I I am very, very, very lucky, very fortunate to have two loving parents who are still together, who are successful, who care about others, who set a good example. I am so lucky to have those parents in my corner. I'm so lucky to have people from Telos in my corner. I'm lucky to have a beautiful girlfriend that I have who's always in my corner. All of these things support me. I know what it's like to have nobody there for you. And the thing that I want to say to those kids is you can't give up. You cannot give up. There is always light at the end of the tunnel, and there is always time to change. The only difference is, are you willing to take the pain and use it as fuel? Because what I was doing for so long was just self-loathing. I took the pain and I was like, you know what, maybe I am terrible, maybe I am ugly, maybe I am this and that. And then eventually I looked at myself in the mirror and I said, wait a second, I can decide what I am because I'm me. I don't have to let other people's opinions decide who I am. I'm going to be myself. That's why I rap. Rap is not a lot, there aren't a lot of white rappers from suburban New Jersey in the rap game, at least successful ones. But I put myself out there because I have that confidence in myself that I'm good enough. And the way I built up that confidence was going through it, was going through the pain and realizing that I came out on the other side. It wasn't forever, first, because I know what it feels like for the pain to feel like it's going to go on forever. I know what it's like to be stuck in a treatment center and feel like you're going to be there forever. But I left. Eventually you leave, and if you're ready to leave and you put things in place, you will succeed. But if you don't put the things in place for yourself that you know are good for yourself, then you're asking yourself to fail. It's a conscious decision. It's up to you.
Yeah, what you said is so powerful. And one of the things that I've seen is when we're depressed, right? When anyone's depressed, what depression tells us is you're going to feel this way forever. It will never end. And then you get into hopelessness and despair and suicidal thoughts and you name it, right? But those things do pass, right? Especially if you're willing to do the work. What a powerful thing that you've said.
Yeah, I think if if I could just record that and send it to every student in treatment at Telos and all across the world, right? That advice is, you gotta get the work done. You have an option, right? You have it's more up to you than the program or your parents or anybody else, and you can choose. Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
Matt,
yeah.
I want to kind of segue a little bit into your music, and I actually want to end the podcast um, with playing for our listeners one of your tracks. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you call them raps, tracks, songs? See, I'm just an old fart that doesn't know these things. I'm so uncool. But so Barry Fell, who is been a guest on our podcast, he came to me a couple weeks ago, maybe a month ago, and he was so moved and flattered by a song that you'd put together that actually mentions him by name. And he took me out on a drive to get a drink, and we just turned that thing up and we just listened to it. It just eyes brimming with tears and like buttons popping off our shirt because we were so like swollen with pride at who you are and what you've accomplished. Are you okay if we share that track with our listeners?
Of course, yeah. I actually just sent it to Rachel. So
Okay.
whenever, if you guys want to pull it up, you can pull that up. And I want to just make it clear that my journey with music is 50-50. Evan, that song you're talking about that we're about to play, Evan made that. Evan made that entire instrumental. So without him having my back with this my raps wouldn't be anything without his instrumentals, and his instrumentals wouldn't be anything without my raps. That's just how it goes.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, as we kind of move toward that point, is there anything that what do you what do you want to give the world? Like, what do you want your mark to be as you continue to get older? And now you're 19, then you're 25, then you're 35, and I mean, what do you want to do with your music, with your life, with your legacy?
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to music, I the thing about that I always tell people when it comes to my music is I don't want fame, I want respect. I want I want the OGs of rap to come to me and say, "This kid's got it." That would be my idea of making it, because I don't have an accumulation of millions of dollars in my head that I want. I don't have the amount of followers that I want. I don't care about that stuff. What I care about is respect, and I care about paying attention to the artistry and the creativity that I try to do, that all these artists try to do. That's what I want. And when it comes to my life, when I think about myself in 5-10 years, first and foremost, I want to have kids. I want to have kids, and the reason I want to have kids is so that I can raise them right, so that I can really, because I know a lot about the world, more than most 19-year-olds. And if I know this much now, think about how much I'll know by the time I'm 25 or 30. So by the time I'm ready to be a father, I feel like I'm going to do a great job raising those kids, because I know the world's a scary, cold place, but I also know how to get through it if you do it the right way. So yeah, I mean, just having respect with my music and having some kids, beautiful wife, and just being happy. It
It's the
doesn't
dream.
matter about the money or anything else, just being happy.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of like all these kids in my mind that I've known who struggle with self-hatred, right? Self-doubt, and they're just tormented by their anxieties. And I'm thinking, man, if every one of those kids could come and have whatever magic, whatever experience you've had, because Matt, you have become, you're confident, you're passionate, you can hear the fire in your voice. You sound like the opposite of that kind of um, insecure, tormented person that you were describing.
Yeah, yeah, because yeah, I mean, when it comes to that kid that I used to be, I took him out to a bridge and I threw him off it.
Well, good for you. I think that's awesome. Okay, so for me, very similar, right? Barry um, sent me a text message with a link to this song that we're about to play, and I love music. I'm super passionate about music and art, always have been, and when I'm trying to help people, I try to connect through music, right? Like one of the first things I always ask young people is what kind of music do you listen to, and why, and what's your favorite song, and how does that, what does it say about you? And anyway, so, I've devoted over 30 years of professional work and volunteer work and every other kind of work on prevention of suicide and healing of people and trying to help people. And so when you wrote this without me even knowing that you were writing it, right? To me, I got emotional because number one, just the passion, right? Number two, knowing you and your personal story. Number three, it became personal to me because it's a reflection of what I've tried to dedicate my life to. And so I before we play this, I want you to know that I'm personally moved and touched and grateful for you and for Evan, right? And for so many others. The gratitude runs deep and the admiration runs deep.
Matt, is there anything
Uh,
you'd like to say about this song as we cue it up?
Yeah, I mean, all I'll say about it is, Evan, I usually what I do with Evan is I send him a couple songs that I think are cool, and he'll be like, okay, let me try to make something like that. And he actually sent me this beat, that the beat that we're about to listen to. And as soon as I heard the drums, like literally instantly, as soon as I heard the drums, I started writing, because the beat had, like, the drums are so heavy and the beat had me moving, and I literally wrote the song in like 15 minutes, because I was just, it was so inspiring for the instrumental, the way it made me feel. It made me feel like if I could say the right things on this song, it could be really powerful, and that was what I was trying to go with. So I'm glad to hear that I succeeded.
For sure.
Okay, I'm looking over at Jordan and Rachel, and they're hooking up. I thought that they were just going to add this in like post production. Are you guys going to play it right now?
I want to play it right now.
Are we okay
yeah.
to just do it?
Yeah.
All right, let's hit it then, and we'll cut out the awkward silences as we're working through the technical piece of this, Matt. But
Yeah, it's all good.
Matt, how many days a week do you get time to put significant time into your music? Is it like every night, or is it once a week, or what? Like,
To be honest with you, I'll find myself writing lyrics like in the grocery store. Like, I'm constantly inspired, and I'm constantly writing and coming up with new stuff. Like, I got like 7 unreleased albums on my phone. Like,
wow,
I'm constantly making music.
that's good.
that's beautiful.
Like, literally after we get off this phone call, I'm going to the studio. I kid you not.
That's cool. Okay, we ready? It looks like we're ready. Okay.
I'm trying to rewind time to the days before I was broken, beat down, and felt this rage. What's wrong with me, mama? Why can't you feel my pain? I'm crying for help, but I know I won't be saved. It's in my brain, ADHD and depression. I'm stressing, but I don't need no therapy session. Aggression with no expression, I swear I'm confessing. For everybody that's been down, came up from the bottom, they won't believe where I am now. Was just a kid with anxiety and a broken heart, getting beat up by bullies and told he isn't smart. He's in the dark, let's embark on something called a journey, and make it clear to these kids that's always mad and hurting that they can make it. Just face it, you've gotta have the guts to go through hell with a smile when you've just had enough, and give it all that you have when you got nothing left. This for the people that love me, that I swore to protect. I had to hike through the desert without a home to go to. Feels like nobody can understand all the things I go through. Mikey, I'm sorry, I know we could have done more to help you. I felt so guilty, but now I think it's time that I tell you. Remember Barry said, Matty, don't feed into the drama. You gotta wake up and admit that your life is a problem. You wanna go back to a cell and fail out on your mama? I said I'd rather quit life than go back to the bottom. So what I do, I said, Barry, I think I need some guidance. I got these thoughts in my head, don't know how to keep them quiet. I'm causing riots and violence, but that don't make it better. He said, what's up with that music you've been making with Evan? I said, that boy is my brother, I'd do anything for him. And we don't got no studio or a mic to record in, but we gon' make it, it's ride or die when you with the X. He said, you got some potential, kid, you could be the best, but you gon' fail if you don't man up and show some respect, and treat people with the love that you got in your chest. So make a choice, admit to the things that you done wrong, and when you're ready, I want you to go and write a song for all the kids without hope that can't seem to find their people, getting bullied and knocked around wishing they were equal. You gotta tell them there's light when they in their darkest moments, and give them hope for the future so they can see it's open. So if you listen to my words and agree with my vision, then come along on this journey so you can see my mission. Cause my position is spit it until they call it greatness. I wrote this song in my basement, can't believe that I made it. So on behalf of everybody that told me I'd fail, I wrote this song to tell these kids that they can prevail and make a path that doesn't involve death or jail. Cause if I did it, you can do it, so go give them hell.
Are our mics back on? Matty, you back with us? You're able to hear all that?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Good stuff.
Amen. That says it all, right? We could just skip the whole podcast and play that one song, and that has it all in there. It's so beautiful. Matty, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us. And we'll watch your career, we'll watch your art with great interest and great affection as you continue to move forward in this great life that you've created. Just want you to know that I'm sitting here looking at Rachel, who has tears in her eyes, and these treatment programs, right? They're a building, their staff, their therapy, but when you really strip it all away, they're people, right? It's about people and relationships. People who are able to see past the smokescreen of the behaviors and the issues to the heart of another person and really meet them there. And so I'm grateful that our listeners got to hear a little exchange between you and Rachel. And I have total confidence that as you go forward in your life, you are a Rachel for others, right? You are a healer for the people that need healing, that need hope. And your music, I think, is going to reach far more than you can just in your day-to-day interactions. So what a beautiful gift and a special thing. Thank you for sharing that with us.
And thank you for your time and your example. So say hi to Evan for us.
Most definitely. No, thank you guys so much for having me. Like it really means a lot that like another just another kid from treatment can make it and come out here and just kind of try to set an example. That's all I'm trying to do is just I want these kids that I was in their exact shoes. That kid sitting in Mizuno room 2 in his bed right now, I want him to know, every kid in that treatment center, I want them to know that it's going to be all right. It's going to be okay. It won't be there forever. And if I can do it, anybody can do it. And that's what I said on the song. If I can do it, you can do it. So go give them hell.
That's right.
Thanks, Matty. Listeners, that's it for this month. We are so grateful to have... Say that?
Oh, yeah, we got to get your plugs in.
Matty, so let's back up a little bit. Okay. So, Matt, can you tell us a little bit about where can our listeners find more of your work? Where can they learn more about you? Give us the details.
Yeah, I mean, I'm actually working on distributing my music to get it on all of the platforms, Spotify, Apple Music, et cetera, et cetera. But as of right now, my Kristen Williams actually follows me on Instagram. My Instagram is just mattyx.music. And I post my Instagram. I post my stuff with Evan on there. That's where I post all my music stuff. But hopefully in the near future, you'll be able to look me up, just Matty space X with on Spotify, Apple Music, and everything will be there. Hopefully.
Okay, all of our millions and millions of followers are going to go blow up your Instagram now, and you'll go viral. So get ready. Thanks, Matty. I appreciate it. And to our listeners, that's it for this month. Thank you for joining us. And remember, mental health matters.
Good night.